When it comes to buying real estate in Colorado, you want to make sure that you buy a good investment that's going to give you a return sometime in the future. And so in today's video, we're going to go over what areas not to buy real estate in to save you that heartache, that time and money, and regrets that you might have if you buy in the wrong neighborhood. And some of these might sound surprising to you, but I promise I will explain exactly why I feel this way about these neighborhoods to avoid buying real estate in Colorado. Hey, I'm Iris. Welcome to my real estate channel. Today, I'm going to share with you one specific neighborhood too, in an area that people tend to think is a great deal when they see it on Zillow and they think it's a good investment, but when you look a little bit closer, you'll see why one might regret it. And I get calls all the time, and when I tell them this simple fact, they immediately change their minds. But I'm going to save that one for later, and chances are you've seen this property before. Now, don't come after me with the pitchforks for this first one. I told you that some of these were going to shock you, and no, it's not because of crime. It's actually a decent area. It's Pueblo West. People are flocking to Pueblo West because you can get way more house for your money, but here are a few things to think about beforehand. So it's super far away, and some people are coming to work at Fort Carson, and then they're going to buy a house in Pueblo West, but it's 45 minutes away from Fort Carson, and it's almost 2 hours south of Denver. So if you're thinking about commuting from Denver, probably not the best idea. If you're thinking about commuting from Fort Carson, probably not the best idea, but if you're working from home, it might not be so bad. The second reason why I wouldn't buy a house in Pueblo West is because of the dry heat. I do have family out there, and we do tend to go visit. It's such a long drive, and there's nothing special or spectacular about the drive. There's not like mountain views or anything like that. It's just basically, it's like you're driving to Kansas is how I feel. But the main thing is the dry heat. It's basically a desert. There's really not much out there. There was one time I was driving into Pueblo. I needed some springs for the kids' trampoline. You know, some of them were getting kind of loose, so somebody was selling it on Facebook Marketplace, and I went down there and I talked to her. She was telling me that people's trampolines, they had to bolt them down into the ground, which, you know, that's probably safe to do anywhere you are. But she said that people's trampolines were just picking up and flying out of their yards and running away from they couldn't find them, or they'd find it like in another neighbor's front yard or something. But that's pretty crazy to have that much wind where it's picking up your trampoline and taking it to your neighbor's house. The other thing though is that there's really not a lot to do outside of the outdoor recreation. There is a drive-in movie theater, but as far as anything like fun to do, like shopping, you're gonna have to drive a little bit of a ways to get to anything that's worth shopping. And I know people say that about the Springs too. We don't really have a ton of shopping, and it's true, but if we wanted to get really good shopping, we can go up to Denver, and it's only an hour away. It's not 2 hours away. So obviously, if you don't mind those things, then you can head on out to the desert. Second neighborhood that I wouldn't buy real estate in is Woodland Park. Now, I've always wanted to buy property in Woodland Park. Like, I've always wanted to own like maybe like a little cabin or something out there, but I just recently sold a couple houses out in Woodland Park in Teller County, and it just made me realize that I wouldn't want to buy property out here. The fact that you can't find a lot of people, especially in the wintertime, if you have any septic issues, you got to get that taken care of before it gets cold. And I get it, there's a ton of snow and people don't want to work in this, you know, digging up frozen ground, but no one's coming out to help you with your septic. It's just really hard and difficult to find anybody during the wintertime. So that's the first thing. But the second thing was, you know, it's only 35 minutes west of Colorado Springs, and it's beautiful. Like, when I drive out there, I think it's amazing. The drive alone is worth it. It's not super far, but I'm going to tell you something about something that just kind of dawned on me as I was driving back and forth from Woodland Park. But before that, I want to get to this main thing because it's a huge issue. In fact, Woodland Park is being sued over this. But if you're thinking about a vacation rental as an investor, unless you plan to live on the property full time, you're not allowed to have like an Airbnb or some sort of vacation rental, Verbo, something like that. They're only allowed in commercial areas, and there are so many restrictions. Before, you could rent out a property whether you live there or not, but now the town has changed the rules, and they basically made it retroactive. So anyone that had those existing properties are having to sell their properties, and those, I guess, rights don't convey with the property as far as Airbnb goes. Now, the lawsuit claims that the ordinance infringes on property rights and violates the Colorado Constitution by imposing those retroactive laws. Additionally, it argues that the ordinance restricts First Amendment rights by limiting the number of occupants and interfering with the right to peaceably assemble. So game night for your family, apparently that's not going to be a thing if there's too many people, too many occupants on that property. So the outcome of the lawsuit is awaited by homeowners hoping to maintain their rights in Woodland Park. One gentleman I spoke to, he bought a house and rented out the other half of the house. And the way that the house was built, you could easily add another unit and make them separate. And so not only that, so he's able to write off a lot of, expensive maintaining the property. So it worked out well for him. But if you bought the house, 2 years ago, think that using it for an Airbnb, and now all of a sudden you don't have that option, then, tough luck, I guess, according to the Woodland Park city officials. Now, another interesting thing to note as well when it comes to Woodland Park is that the pay does not match the home prices. According to ZipRecruiter, the average salary in Woodland Park is around $46,000. And guess what the average home price is? It's $575,000. Now, make that make sense. $575,000, $46,000 salary. It doesn't make any sense. And for the record, I love Woodland Park. I think it's insanely beautiful up there. Sometimes I'll go up there and work, just have coffee at the coffee shop. So I'm not attacking, but sharing these wild facts and why I wouldn't buy real estate out there. But I know it's totally worth it for a lot of people, and they can charge over $400 per square foot because people will actually pay it. The reason why they're charging that price is because people are actually paying it. Now, another thing to think about is the past. So the past can be tricky or icy if there's an accident and you have to drive to the Springs. I get home buyers that want to buy in Woodland Park and commute to one of the military bases every day, which is great, until there's a big snowstorm or there's a car accident on the 2-lane pass, and now you're 30 minutes plus late for work on a 35-minute commute. So that is something that people need to think about. Commuting to Colorado Springs is going to be taxing, I promise you. When you have to sit through that, you're in the pass, you're in the mountain. And so that can cause a lot of stress. You got to make sure you have enough gas. You got to make sure that you have enough, maybe even snacks. If you've got kids in the car, then that's going to be pretty interesting. Now, for me, I think that I would be able to handle it if I only had to go into work maybe once or twice a week, or my job is flexible. So that might not really affect you, but it's something to think about. I know it sounds fun. It sounds really nice to live in Woodland Park, but unless that is not going to affect you in that way, then you might want to reconsider. All right, let's talk about the next area to avoid. Peyton. Now, Peyton is located on the northeast side of Colorado Springs, and people love Peyton because of the larger lots and how quiet it is out there. But the reason I say to avoid it is mostly because of the wind, and it's colder than it is in Colorado Springs, and the wind can be brutal. There's just not enough mature trees to help block the wind. There's not a lot of buildings out there. They do have like grocery shopping, like Walmart and things that are close by. You'll be fine when it comes to your basic needs. It's not like a rural community or anything, but again, not enough buildings to block the wind, not enough trees, lots and lots of prairie, grass, dirt, not much to look at.
She's the least exciting to look at.
It's just similar to Pueblo in that way, just further away from the mountains. East is kind of where you start getting out into the rural areas. But the way that Colorado Springs is expanding, I wouldn't be surprised if that area got a lot more popular if you just gave it a few years, like maybe 15, 20 years. I imagine that the area is going to be a lot more popular the way that Powers grew. the Powers corridor grew, I can see like that Mark Shuffle area and out east becoming more and more popular. Maybe and hopefully something a little bit more affordable. You could be looking at giant snowdrifts and more snow days for the kids, which could be a good thing depending on how you look at it. However, if you are used to cold wind and you don't mind sand blowing in your eyes because you're from liberal Kansas and you're used to the wind, you might see this as a great opportunity to get a great deal on real estate. The next neighborhood to avoid buying real estate, people are not going to like me for this one, but I have to say Lorson Ranch. A lot of people love moving to Lorson Ranch. But like, what am I getting for this neighborhood besides proximity to the bases? And actually, it's not even really that close to the bases. It's still a good 20-minute drive, 25 minutes to Fort Carson. A lot of military families like to live in that area because it appears to be close to the bases, but it's also a newer community, so it's nicer. They've got new construction out there, and those new construction homes, you can get a really good deal. So homes are around $450,000, and if you get one of those 3.99 to 4.99 interest rates, your monthly payment on a single family home is super affordable. I sold to a military retiree. His monthly payment, he bought a house for $550,000. The builder ended up covering all of his closing costs. He only paid $2,500 earnest money, and his monthly payment was $2,200 a month. He did incorporate a buy down to get it that low, which is very rare right now. That's why buying in winter is such a great idea, because you can get these deals. But even if you were able to get something around $2,800 a month, it's still really good for a brand new house. And with that low interest rate, more of your money is actually going towards the house versus interest rate. Because think about it, 1 point can be anywhere around $200 per month. That's just going to interest. It's not going towards your house. So you could pretend that you have high interest rate and pay an additional down towards that principal and get it paid off quicker and save a lot of money in interest over the long term. But I think really new construction is the way to go. Builders are trying to control the market, because they had a situation in the past where they didn't have control of the market, and oversupply pretty much crashed real estate housing. So anyway, all that to say, Lorson Ranch, everyone's loving it because of the interest in the deals, the brand new homes. But again, what are you getting for, that metro district? Because it isn't a metro district, which is basically additional taxes that are assessed on the neighborhood. It's similar to an HOA, but it's not an HOA. And so you're paying a lot of money for taxes, like $4,500. And you look at other Metro District neighborhoods like Banning Lewis, and you're getting a fitness center. You get several public charter schools. You're getting a swimming pool and a splash pad and a dog park, food trucks, and fireworks on the 4th of July. But what are we getting out in Lorson Ranch for these high Metro tax payments? Yes, the homes are a lot more affordable. No, there's no HOA, but I mean, for that high of a tax bracket, I just feel like you're not getting a whole lot. When the neighborhood first came out, those houses were selling like hotcakes, because we were doing 3.75% interest when they first came out, but the values have slowed down, and it's a lot harder to sell a property out there because it is far and there's not a lot of amenities down there. You still have to drive to the Springs to really get that city experience. I had mentioned a neighborhood that I get a lot of calls for all the time, and when I tell them this simple fact, they immediately change their minds, and it's called the Chateau at Antelope Ridge. The Chateau at Antelope Ridge is located on the northeast side of Colorado Springs, and it's kind of south of Banning Lewis, and it's really nice and well built. Like, the community looks great. But the reason why I don't think it's a great investment is that it's on a major land lease, and what that means is you're paying about $700 a month to lease the land. However, I will say that at least they try to provide amenities like common utilities. They've got snow removal, trash, the clubhouse. They even have a computer lab. They have an exercise room, a playground, and a swimming pool. And I'm assuming that the swimming pool is operable. We've had this issue before where they say there's a swimming pool, but it's filled with cement, or it's never open because they they don't want to have to take care of it. And so what's crazy is that these homes are still priced around $250,000 or more. So this monthly payment could be around $2,000 per month with a 20% down payment for a property that they're going to give you a hard time if you ever try to take that property and move it somewhere else. I guarantee that. You know, they say, you know, if you look in the covenants, which I've had an opportunity to see what's on there, they say that if you get permission to remove that property that you own off of the land lease, you just have to submit for permission or whatever. But how hard would that be? So anyway, I hope that helps you figure out what neighborhoods to avoid buying real estate in. Now, there are some really great neighborhoods for investors still, even though we're super, super high priced. These are still really great neighborhoods for rentals where a lot of people are renting these properties versus home ownership. We can always have a one-on-one Zoom call to talk about your real estate needs to make sure that you're buying in a good area. There are certain neighborhoods that increase in value a lot quicker than others and that hold their value really well because they're in a great school district and a lot of people want to move there. It's a highly desirable neighborhood and people love that for those reasons. So make sure you are subscribed because next week we're going to talk about what neighborhoods you should invest in when you are moving to Colorado Springs. So stay tuned for that. And don't forget to watch this video that's popping up next on the screen, and I'll see you next week.